It started like any other quiet suburban neighborhood: perfect lawns, identical mailboxes, and a strict set of rules enforced by a powerful homeowners association. On the surface, everything looked peaceful, but underneath that polished image, resentment had been building for years. Daniel Carter wasn't the kind of man who looked for trouble. He was a mid-40s software consultant who had recently moved into the neighborhood after years of saving. For him, this house wasn't just property, it was freedom. A fresh start after a difficult divorce, a place where he could finally live on his own terms. At least that's what he thought. The first letter from the HOA arrived just 2 weeks after he moved in. It was polite but firm. His trash bins had been left visible from the street for more than 12 hours. That was a violation. He shrugged it off, paid the small fine. No big deal. But then came the second notice. His grass half an inch too long. Then another. The color of his front door, not compliant with community standards. Daniel started noticing something strange. His neighbors weren't getting these letters, at least not like he was. He saw overgrown lawns, faded paint, even broken fences, but no warning notices taped to their doors. It didn't take long before he realized the truth. He was being targeted. The HOA president, Margaret Whitmore, was known in the neighborhood as someone who took rules very seriously. Too seriously. She had lived there for over 15 years and treated the entire community like her personal kingdom. And for some reason, she had decided Daniel didn't belong. Things escalated quickly. One morning, Daniel walked outside to find a bright orange sticker on his car. Unauthorized vehicle. He had parked in his own driveway, but apparently his car model wasn't listed in the HOA registry yet. Another fine. Another warning. Another threat. At first, Daniel tried to play by their rules. He submitted paperwork, attended meetings, even apologized for things that weren't his fault, but nothing worked. Margaret always found something new. Then came the violation that changed everything. Daniel had installed a small security camera above his garage after noticing someone walking near his property late at night. It was discreet, barely noticeable. But to the HOA, it was unacceptable. Privacy violation, they claimed. He was given 48 hours to remove it or face legal action. That was the moment something shifted inside him. He realized this wasn't about rules. This was about control. And if they wanted a fight, they were about to get one. But Daniel didn't react emotionally. He didn't argue or shout or threaten. He did something far more dangerous. He started documenting everything. Every letter, every fine, every conversation. He installed more cameras, hidden ones this time. He recorded HOA meetings. He kept copies of emails. He even started reviewing public records. What he found shocked him. The HOA wasn't just strict. It was corrupt. Fines were being issued selectively. Money collected from residents wasn't always accounted for. Contracts were being handed out to companies owned by relatives of board members. And Margaret, she was at the center of it all. Daniel realized he wasn't just dealing with a difficult neighbor. He was dealing with a system that had been abusing its power for years. So he made a plan. A slow, calculated plan. Step 1 was simple: blend in. He stopped fighting the small fines, paid them quietly, followed every rule to the letter. To the HOA, it looked like he had given up. But behind the scenes, he was building a case. He reached out to other residents carefully at first. Casual conversations, small complaints. At first, people were hesitant. No one wanted to go against Margaret. She had too much influence. But once Daniel started sharing evidence, things began to change. A neighbor revealed she had been fined repeatedly for a fence that had been approved years ago. Another admitted he had paid thousands in penalties without ever receiving proper documentation. The stories were all the same. Targeting pressure, silence. Daniel wasn't alone anymore. Step 2. Legal leverage. Using his connections, Daniel consulted with a lawyer specializing in property and HOA law. When he presented the evidence, the lawyer's reaction said everything. "This isn't just mismanagement," he said. "This could be fraud." That was all Daniel needed to hear. But instead of filing a lawsuit immediately, Daniel took it a step further. He waited. He kept gathering more evidence, stronger evidence. Financial records, meeting transcripts, witness statements. Months passed. To the outside world, nothing was happening. But beneath the surface, everything was about to explode. The breaking point came during the annual HOA meeting. It was a formal event, mandatory attendance for major decisions. Margaret stood at the front, confident as always, going through the usual agenda. Budget approvals, maintenance updates, rule enforcement. Then she opened the floor for questions. That's when Daniel stood up. At first, no one paid much attention. He had been quiet for months, just another resident. But then he started speaking. Calmly, clearly. He began with simple questions. "Can you explain how violation fines are determined?" Margaret answered confidently. Then he asked, "Can you explain why certain residents are fined more frequently than others for similar violations?" A slight pause. Then another answer. But Daniel didn't stop. He pulled out documents, printed emails, financial statements. He projected them onto the screen for everyone to see. The room went silent. Every claim Margaret had made contradicted. Every rule applied inconsistently. Every dollar questionable. Then came the final blow. Daniel played recordings. Actual audio from private HOA board discussions. Voices filled the room, board members openly discussing targeting specific residents, increasing fines to set examples, and even manipulating records. Margaret's face turned pale. People started murmuring, then shouting. Neighbors who had stayed silent for years suddenly found their voices. Questions turned into accusations. Accusations turned into chaos. And Daniel, he just stood there, watching, because this wasn't revenge driven by anger. This was precision. Within weeks, everything collapsed. An official investigation was launched. Multiple board members resigned. Margaret was removed from her position and later faced legal consequences. The HOA itself was forced into restructuring. New leadership, new policies, full transparency. For the first time in years, the neighborhood felt normal, peaceful, fair. Daniel didn't celebrate. He didn't boast or seek attention. Because for him, it was never about destroying people. It was about ending a system that abused its power. One evening, months later, Daniel sat on his porch watching the sunset. No notices, no warnings, no stress. Just silence. A neighbor walked by and nodded. "Things are different now," he said. Daniel smiled slightly. "Yes," he replied, "they are." But what no one realized, what made the entire story even more powerful, was this. Daniel never broke a single rule. He didn't hack anything, didn't threaten anyone, didn't step outside the law. He used the system to expose the system. And that's what made his revenge unstoppable. Because in the end, the HOA didn't fall because of anger. It fell because the truth finally had a voice. And once that voice was heard, there was no stopping what came next.